On the night of June 18, 1994, as midnight approached at Middlewick House, Camilla Parker Bowles sat alone at her kitchen table. The silence felt heavy, broken only by her quiet, muffled sobs, as she struggled to regain her composure after a devastating phone call. Never in her life had Camilla faced a truth as raw or as unfiltered as the one just delivered to her by Princess Diana. The conversation cut deeper than any argument before, exposing the jagged edges of Camilla's past decisions and her decades-long involvement with Prince Charles. Diana's words weren't fiery or reckless. Instead, they carried a cold, clear pity, something far more devastating than anger. That conversation would haunt Camilla, lingering like a ghost, and would force her for the first time to face the true consequences of a broken marriage. It was a turning point, sharp and impossible to undo, a collision years in the making. For 13 long years, Diana and Camilla had managed to avoid any direct confrontation, until that night. For years, their conversations had always been filtered past secretly through Prince Charles, shared by acquaintances or masked at formal events where both women kept their distance. Any direct words between them were always avoided until now. That night, Diana made a different choice. She picked up the phone. After 3 sharp rings, Camilla answered. You could hear suspicion and dread in her voice. Hello, Camilla. This is Diana. In that moment, Camilla felt a chill run up her spine. After years of circling each other, hearing Diana's voice directed straight at her was a shock like no other. Diana, what do you want? The answer came, gentle but firm. I want to speak to you woman to woman. We need to talk about what you've done, how you've entered my marriage, changed my children's lives, and turned my world upside down. Camilla's knees suddenly felt weak. She sank into the nearest chair, struggling to steady herself. She tried to respond, to back away from the confrontation. But Diana stopped her, her voice calm and unwavering. No, Camilla, for years you've spoken through Charles, not tonight. Tonight you'll hear from me. There was no anger, no thunder in Diana's tone. Instead, every word was careful, even soft, carrying a restraint that was more unsettling than anger. I am not here to argue with you. I am not here to hurl threats. I am calling because I feel sorry for you. That one word, pity, hit Camilla harder than she could have imagined. She might have expected anger, hatred, or resentment, but pity. Diana wasn't finished, not even close. Her voice, steady as a blade, pressed on, delivering a truth Camilla simply couldn't deflect. Camilla, Diana said, her voice steady, have you ever known what it's like to lie next to a man and hear him whispering another woman's name in his sleep? A fresh wave of pain washed over Camilla, but she couldn't find the words to respond. Diana pressed on, her words sharp and unyielding. Have you ever had to welcome his children into the world, all the while knowing he'd have given anything to reach for your hand instead of mine? Diana, please, Camilla whispered, a fragile plea, nearly lost to the harsh reality taking shape between them. Diana's voice softened, but the intensity remained. Imagine planning those moments of love, of intimacy every single time, wondering if he's comparing it all to memories with you. Camilla's composure broke, her voice trembled. Diana, I never meant. Diana seized on the unfinished thought. You never meant for what, Camilla? For me to find out, for me to be left hurt, or for me to cling to some foolish hope that my husband would choose me instead? The weight of those questions hung in the air, sharp and inescapable. Then Diana's voice softened, almost gentle, but somehow more haunting. There's something you need to know. I don't hate you anymore, Camilla. I only pity you. The reason hovered unanswered. Diana didn't hesitate. Her next words were crystal clear, every syllable delivered with careful precision. You've devoted the best years of your life to a man forever chained to his obligations, a man who will always put his duty before you. For him, you became the villain in an entire nation's story, all for a love that could never be sealed with vows or honored by the crown. Because of him, you are feared and despised across Britain, yet he won't even defend you in public. Each word landed like a stone through glass, shattering the last illusions lingering in the kitchen that night. But Diana wasn't finished. There was still another blow, a truth so stark it had to be said. Camilla, Diana pressed on. Ask yourself honestly, what have you truly gained? Camilla could barely manage a whisper. I don't know what you mean, Diana continued, her voice relentless, yet strangely gentle. You say Charles loves you, but what does that love really give you? Not a shared surname, not a wedding band, not children who bear his name, not even the dignity of being acknowledged beside him for the world to see. You don't even have his whole heart. He's still married to me. The enormity of it crashed down, truths tight and inescapable. You are 47, Camilla. You've been divorced for 6 years. Diana's words carried an unrelenting honesty. You could have chosen someone who would truly commit to you, someone ready to love you openly, without shame or secrecy. Someone willing to walk beside you in the daylight, not just meet you in secret or exchange hurried whispers at night. Camilla tried to protest, holding on to a desperate hope. Charles and I love each other, she insisted. But Diana's response cut through, chilling and clear. Charles is in love with the unattainable, Camilla with the myth of you. He craves the thrill of what he can't truly have. Ask yourself this: if being with you came without restrictions, without fear, and without all the drama, would he still want you in the same way? The room grew silent, the air heavy, as Camilla realized she didn't know the answer. Diana continued, her voice steady. I've spent 13 years married to Charles. There are sides of him I see that you'll only ever glimpse. He's drawn to what he can't quite have. If suddenly you were completely his, no secrets, no barriers, you'd lose the very thing that makes you desirable to him. He'd see you as ordinary, and all that electricity between you would disappear. Something inside Camilla seemed to fracture under the weight of those words. Still, Diana wasn't finished letting go of her dreams. She shifted in her seat, her voice turning cold, almost prophetic. Let me tell you what happens next. The world is waiting for this, Charles, and I will end our marriage. Everyone expects it. But then Diana revealed a twist Camilla never saw coming. She spoke without a hint of hesitation. What you don't realize is this: even after the divorce, he won't make you his wife. That's the truth. He'll come up with excuse after excuse. The timing isn't right. The public won't accept it. His mother, the Queen, would never approve. There will always be another obstacle, Camilla. For Charles to marry you would mean standing before the world and admitting he tore his own marriage apart. And Charles is not brave enough to face that reckoning. Camilla's tears began to fall freely now, but Diana continued, her words calm yet cutting. You will wait while he hesitates. You will hope for that fairy tale ending that never comes. The years will pass, his hair will thin, age will set in, and you'll see him grow more stubborn, harder to be around. Believe me when I say this, you do not know Charles like I do. I've lived in his shadow, shared his routines, listened to the everyday sounds of his life, the snoring, the bad moods, the vulnerability, and the exhaustion. I've seen the man behind the title. A heavy silence filled the room, a quiet so thick it pressed in on both women with realizations they couldn't ignore. You quote in love with an illusion, Camilla, Diana said, her gaze steady. You hold on to the Charles who writes secret notes, who sneaks away for a few precious moments, who whispers promises and makes every meeting feel electric. I, on the other hand, have spent years with the real man. The one who talks over movies, who leaves his damp towels on the bathroom floor every morning, who sulks if breakfast isn't made exactly right. That's the real Charles, imperfect, ordinary human. But Diana wasn't done yet. She drew a long breath and lowered her voice, so soft it was almost painful to hear. There's one last truth you have to face, the hardest of all the children. The clock showed 11:26 p.m. Diana's words cut sharper than ever. Camilla, she whispered, just above a hush, think about William and Harry. Camilla's answer was a quiet, desperate plea. Diana, please, leave the boys out of this. But Diana stood firm. They've always been part of this story, ever since you decided your own happiness mattered more than the promises you made at the altar. Camilla, do you realize what you've set in motion? Just last week, William looked up at me and asked, why doesn't Daddy love Mummy? He's only 11, yet he already understands. Camilla's anguish deepened, tears streaming down her face. And Harry, dear, gentle Harry, he just wants his parents to find peace. He even asked me if it was his fault that his father is gone so often. Diana's tone softened for a moment, then returned to its cold, clear edge. You might say you never wished them pain, Camilla, but you had to know. You knew that being involved with a married man, a man with children, would leave scars on young hearts. You made a choice. Your own desires outweighed the innocence of those boys. Camilla felt those words hit her with a force nothing could soften. Diana continued, her voice low and steady, and I'll tell you how this story ends for them. William and Harry will remember that their father chose another woman over them. They will carry suspicion into every relationship they have. Love, marriage, the meaning of trust, these things will always be complicated for them. Fragile, easy to see through. You say it isn't fair, but I'm afraid the truth is even harsher. As they grow, as they begin to understand what happened, they will come to despise you, not as children, not while they are still innocent, but years from now, when all the pieces come together, they will look at you with resentment, not confusion. Diana's next words landed like a winter chill. When Charles is old, when he needs family for comfort and care, it won't be you he turns to. It will be his sons who will have no forgiveness for you, and you, Camilla, will find yourself completely alone. It's hard to imagine Camilla's reaction, a woman left utterly exposed. The clock showed 11:29 p.m. when her composure finally broke. Sobbing, she barely managed to whisper, "Diana." Her voice was faint, almost gone. "What do you want from me?" Diana's reply was calm, almost tired. "I want nothing from you, Camilla. That time is over. Tonight I'm calling because I am done fighting over a man who isn't worth it." Camilla quotes. Confusion was clear in her shaky words. "What are you saying?" Diana spoke with a sense of finality. "I'm setting you free. You can have him, all of him. His flaws, his selfishness, his inability to put anyone's needs before his own." Camilla was stunned. I don't understand." Diana remained firm. "I'm divorcing Charles. The man you fought for all these years will finally be yours, unfiltered and undivided. You'll see not the fairy tale prince, but the real, complicated man." Camilla. Her voice grew softer, carrying a quiet warning. "But tell me, have you truly thought about what it means when you finally win? When all that's left is the man, not the scandal, not the thrill of forbidden love, not the rush of risk, just him, in the harsh, clear light of day." The silence that followed was overwhelming. The answer hung in the air, unspoken. "What happens when it's just you and Charles? No more obstacles, just the two of you together, facing the quiet of real life. Picture waking up next to him, day after day. Imagine tending to his moods, feeling the weight of his expectations, learning how to be his partner, not just his private escape." In that moment, Camilla felt the truth hit her. She had never really imagined this future. Diana pressed on gently, but with unwavering clarity. "You've played the other woman for so long, you've forgotten how it feels to be the only woman. And Charles, after all those years in the shadows, he's forgotten how to be a true husband." Diana quote's voice softened, almost turning into a gentle caress as she spoke her final prophecy. The clock read 11:32 p.m. Camilla, mark my words. 5 years from now, when the fantasy fades and the reality of living with Charles sets in, you'll remember this conversation. You'll remember I told you gaining him comes at the cost of every thrill. No more secrecy, no more stolen glances. And in that clarity, you might realize all you achieved was the destruction of a marriage, one that belonged to a man who was never worthy of such wreckage. Camilla quote's voice trembled with denial. "That is not true." But Diana looked further into the future. "A decade from now, when the crowd still turn their backs on you, when the whispers and jeers have not faded, you'll realize you can never replace what I was to the public, the way they adored me. You may have won Charles, but in the process, you have lost something far greater." Camilla broke down, her sobs echoing through the empty space. Diana's voice, though soft, cut straight to the core. "But above all, Camilla, you'll finally see the harsh truth. There was always the possibility of real love for you. Someone who would have put you first, who would have shouted their devotion from the rooftops, who would have cherished you without ever hurting anyone else. But instead you chose to live in the shadows, to be a compromise for a man who never saw you as his first choice." Camilla quote's plea broke the silence, her voice almost childlike. "Please, Diana, stop." The silence deepened, heavy and unspoken. Then Diana spoke her final words, cold and final. "Goodbye, Camilla. This is yours now. You earned every piece of it." With that, the line went dead. 11:42 p.m. The kitchen was silent, except for Camilla's quiet weeping. She still held the phone to her ear as the reality began to settle in. In that moment, perhaps for the first time in 25 years, Camilla started to doubt everything about her life with Charles. Was it possible she'd destroyed a marriage for a man who never truly meant to make her the center of his world? Had she spent her best years devoted to someone who loved the thrill of the chase but cared little for real devotion? And worst of all, had Diana spoken only the raw, uncomfortable truth? Camilla looked around at the emptiness, the silent, echoing rooms of her home. At 47, she found herself alone, still officially divorced, childless with Charles, and reviled by so many. She was endlessly waiting for a man who made promises of everything, yet always found a way to hold back. For the first time, a difficult question began to take root. What kind of life might she have had if Charles had never come into it? What if she had found a man who could love her boldly and completely, without secrets and without leaving broken hearts behind? A chilling thought lingered. What if Diana was right, and regret would be her constant companion from now on? But the most unsettling realization was this: Diana hadn't called to argue or make threats. She had simply called to tell the truth. There was no raised voice, no ultimatums, just a message delivered with the precision of a scalpel. She cut straight to the heart of what was real. And in the end, the truth proved far more devastating than anger ever could. Years later, in 2005, Charles and Camilla finally stood together as husband and wife. Almost 11 years had passed since that searing conversation, and every warning in Diana's prophecy had unfolded with almost uncanny accuracy. Public affection for Camilla was still out of reach. Whenever she made an appearance, she was met with jeers and cold shoulders. People tolerated her, but she was never fully embraced as Charles's partner. Even as William and Harry grew into adults, their relationship with Camilla remained polite, but undeniably distant. The biggest change, though, was in Charles himself. Now that there were no more secrets, his passion seemed to fade. What was once a romantic affair, exciting and hidden, lost its sparkle in the routine of married life. In quiet moments, Camilla would confide to those close to her that the doubts Diana had once planted in her mind never fully disappeared. She struggled with the haunting suspicion that she had fought for a man who ultimately wasn't worth the heartbreak he left behind. The forbidden affair, she realized, had felt far more thrilling than the reality of marriage ever could. Now the harsh truth could no longer be ignored. That phone call on June 18, 1994 became a turning point for Diana, a moment when she stopped fighting for her place beside Charles and started fighting to reclaim herself. But that evening marked more than Diana's act of freedom. It was also the night Camilla began to understand the true cost of her pursuit. Diana's words weren't fueled by rage or resentment. Instead, they rang with sharp, undeniable honesty. She spoke as someone finally free from a painful web, someone who could look back and see things clearly. After 25 years, Diana revealed that Camilla's hard-fought victory felt empty. In just 17 minutes on the phone, the destinies of both women changed. Diana walked away knowing she was no longer anyone's rival. Camilla, on the other hand, had to confront an uncomfortable reality. What she had won might, in truth, be a loss disguised as victory. Sometimes the hardest blows aren't delivered in anger. They're spoken quietly, with the calm certainty of someone who has nothing left to hide and nothing to prove. The cruelest irony of Camilla's life is that she achieved every dream she ever chased. She reached for everything she thought she wanted: Charles's devotion, the ceremony of marriage, ultimately becoming Queen Consort. But just as Diana once foretold, their daring, secret love affair settled into the steady rhythm of a royal union, burdened by protocol, duty, and the watchful gaze of the world. Camilla had finally won Charles, but with that public recognition came the gradual loss of the excitement she once craved. She wore the crown, yet never truly won the hearts of the people. Yes, she achieved what she set out to do, but found herself paying a price she never fully expected. And every so often, in the quiet of late night, she can't help but hear Diana's words echo a simple, devastating question: what have you really won?